Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 Co-Axial. This is the James Bond 50th anniversary. You can see and you can purchase this limited edition of 11,007 pieces on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high-resolution images for your desktop that don't include my wrist, and naturally complete pricing details for this 50th anniversary James Bond limited edition. Now, the watch was originally released in conjunction with Skyfall in 2012. It wasn't a specific tie-in to any watch featured in the movie. Rather, it took the best-known modern-era James Bond wristwatch, the Omega Seamaster Professional Diver 300, and reissued it in a upscale package far more impressive and deluxe than anything Pierce Brosnan would have worn in the 90s. And because this watch has such a sentimental value to Bond fans in the modern era, and it was the original James Bond Omega, it was this, and not the Planet Ocean, and not the Aquaterra, that bore the privilege of becoming the 50th anniversary piece. So now you can see the watch on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, is the classic Seamaster 300. Now, 41.5 millimeters across the round of the case. That does not include the Helium escape valve, nor does it include the crown and the crown guards. The watch is fairly slim. 13.5 millimeters thick. From lug to lug it measures 47 millimeters, so if you were to throw this on a strap, 47 lug to lug would be your measurement, but since it is on a bracelet with solid end links, they extended the span across the wrist to a larger and more contemporary 52.5 millimeters. Now the watch has impressive heft to it. In every respect, it's a substantial piece, and that starts with one of the best bracelets in the business. It feels like a luxury watch on the wrist, but in spite of the heft, it isn't crude. The individual links are beautifully manufactured, the tolerances between them very fine, the finish on the top alternately satin finish and polished, and you can even see there's a small polished lip bevel along the flanks. This is beautifully rendered for a utilitarian dive style watch. And on the underside, since the beginning, this bracelet has had broad channels between links to avoid pinching skin and pulling hair. There's a reason this bracelet is so well regarded, Bond connections notwithstanding, nor are they necessary. The single fold deployant is solid, and this is the clasp that is generally believed to have convinced Rolex to rethink its clasp quality. When this was launched in the mid-90s, it was a revelation, and it's still one of the best. It feels solid, it's milled out from a single ingot of steel. Twin trigger release means you must positively disengage it to pop it open. Not friction fit, nor a cheap clamshell, it can't simply pop open. You could see one of the significant upgrades since the Pierce Brosnan era has been the conversion of the bracelet from pins and sleeves for sizing to screws, the more upscale and frankly more appropriate solution in a luxury timepiece. Now, it still has the famed milled-out dive extension, very secure, very solid. This is another one of those standard of the industry piece when it was originally introduced, but upgrades have taken place. As you can see, some of the cinching beads built in and spring-loaded are now made, and these are used to retain the mechanism when folded, but they're now made of ceramic as opposed to the original steel. For long-wearing durability, these won't wear down to nubs. They will always retain their hardness. They will never be worn down by the rest of the steel components of the clasp, so that the tolerances will remain just as crisp years from now as they are at the time of manufacture. Now, the watch is a classic. In case profile, dial layout, and bezel shape, you have to recall that while the Rolex Submariner has more or less evolved from the original references of 1954 to the present, you can always tell any two of them are related to all the others. The Omega Seamaster family has seen a startling array of timepieces that often don't even appear to have hailed from the same manufacturer, much less the same model line. But this Seamaster Professional Diver 300 meters, the so-called Bond watch, has more or less retained its design now for over 2 decades. That's something of a record for the Seamaster family, and a clear sign that this design is an emerging classic. Again, its longevity speaks to that. However, from 2012 forward, it received a substantial upgrade. On the conventional models as well as the Bond, a full ceramic insert on the bezel. Effectively as hard as sapphire, it ensures that the bezel, traditionally a high-impact, high-wear component of a watch, is robustly resistant to scratches and scuffs that can cause it to wear in advance of the rest of the watch components. Now, you'll note the beautiful red lacquered 50. Of course, this watch, not a specific model featured in the movie, it was rather a tribute to 50 years of the James Bond film franchise from 2012 dating back to Dr. No in 1962. And you'll note that rather than the 007 seconds counterweight of previous special editions, this one features a recurring 007 numeral and trigger motif across the dial. You can see the famed Walther PPK and the 007 logo. It's quite subtle, and you can see as I turn it out of the light, it disappears. Actually, as I cover the 50 and turn the watch at this angle, all of the co-branding disappears, so this is quite discreet. You can be a Bond fan, but not necessarily want to declare it. Most apropos for a watch dedicated to a secret agent, discreet but upscale. Now, again, a major upgrade from the Pierce Brosnan era is the quality of the dial, now with all applied Luminova indices and applied Omega Marquee at 12 o'clock. It's much better finished than it was in the early years of the mid to late 90s. Now on the case back, you get a little bit of insight, not much, but some, into the caliber 2507. Now it is a distant descendant of the 1109 and 1120 calibers that went into the original Bond Seamasters. This one, from the 2500 series coaxial automatics, features all of the upgrades that went into the entire line of 2500s. So it beats at the distinctive 25,200 vibration per hour rate that Omega reserves for the coaxials. And by the time this watch was built, the 2500 family was rock solid. 48-hour power reserve. It actually has solidly more than the 42 hours of the standard caliber 1120 from which it sprung. It's still a COSC-certified Swiss chronometer, automatic bidirectional winding. It does feature hacking seconds, so pull the crown, stop the balance, and I'll actually demonstrate how that works. You pull the crown, stop the balance, halt the seconds hand. Now you can synchronize to a mission timer or just an atomic clock. And of course there's a quick set for the date. Now the unique component of this caliber 2507 is that the winding mass can actually be seen moving underneath a very small sapphire window. It has a bullet-style winding center with James Bond 50 years blazoned upon, and of course the rifling pattern of a gun barrel is featured in the James Bond opening sequence. Now finally, this watch, reliable, upscale, and hardy, is still a 300-meter diver. So you have all of the hale and hardy features of the standard 300-meter professional diver with the classic helium escape valve. It's something not even James Bond would routinely use, as he rarely saturation dives, but it's a fun conversation piece and now distinctive of this model line. You can see this classic and you can purchase it on our website.